Today I'm reviewing Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok Vaid Menon. It is one of the books from the Pocket Change Collective collection, and it is a collection of 8 small books, each written by current artists and activists on their experiences and thoughts on a specific movement or issue. Alok tackles the idea of living outside the gender binary, which is living outside of what's traditionally male and female. Alok is gender nonconforming, activist and artist, and goes by they them pronouns. Living outside the gender binary is synonymous with being non-binary and gender nonconforming. So those are both terms I'll be using throughout the video. I feel like this is a perfect introduction book for someone who wants to know more about gender, but doesn't necessarily know where to start, or maybe someone who is questioning their gender and is seeking more guidance. Alok writes in somewhat simple terms compared to some large, more intimidating books on gender. It is certainly a big and complex subject, but luckily their book makes it much more approachable. The beginning half is mostly about Alok and their background. They describe their childhood living in a small town in Texas, being a person of color that, defied gender roles. As you can imagine, it wasn't easy for them. And especially being a person of color on top of that, it was a hard time. So Alok talks about that, and then also talks about their current experiences as an adult being non-binary. And importantly, they're visibly non-binary. So you can tell that they're not cisgender. And being visibly non-binary it comes with its challenges, because there's harassment on the streets. You're putting yourself out there, and a lot of people don't like that, unfortunately. It's not right to not like someone who puts themselves out there, but unfortunately, Alok describes some experiences that they have just walking down the street wearing a dress, and how that upsets people. And I think it's important to gain the perspective of everyone that is different from you, because that is what solidarity is. So the second half of the book tackles arguments. Alok breaks it down into 4 categories: dismissal, inconvenience, biology, and the slippery slope. So for each category, Alok brings up arguments that, many people make against the gender non-conforming community. So I like to call them like bully arguments, because they're just super disrespectful things that people say to gender non-conforming people. Such as, for the inconvenience category, Alok is responding to the argument, "I get that you're different, but why do you need to shove it in my face? Keep it to yourselves." And another one is, "Gender neutrality erases my right to be a man or a woman." And so Alok, addresses those arguments and talks about them in depth, which is important. And whether you disagree with Alok, they make excellent points about how gender nonconforming people are discriminated against, and that in the long run perpetuates violence. Alok brings up how there are current people in power on local, state, and federal levels that are trying to implement laws that directly affect non-binary, trans, LGBTQIA plus people. I think we can all agree that no one deserves violence because of how they express themselves or identify. So we can therefore agree it's important to understand gender more for the sake of those who are discriminated against. Overall, I think this book is super well done and it's approachable. It's pocket size, it's not overwhelming. It's, a great introductory book for, someone curious about gender. And just reading this book, I want to read the 7 other Pocket Change Collective books, because I just want to further my knowledge about people's struggles. And I think that's, important. So thanks to reading this book, thanks to Alok, I want to read the other ones for sure. So if you're interested in Alok's book, you can click the link in the description below. I highly recommend it. Trans rights are human rights. Simple as that.